Leader, it is so cool you're taking your students on a mission trip, but before you get in those vehicles and get out of your town, you have to train your team. But before you train your team, you have to define what is your purpose. There are 6 questions that I'll be asking today in this week's Focus content that you need to ask yourself and you need to have answered before you even start your training. Let's unpack this. I hope you enjoy today. Leader, I am so excited for you. You are taking students on a trip that could potentially not only change their life, but the lives of the many people that they are going to impact with the gospel of Jesus. That's incredible. But the question has to be raised. How are we going to prepare our team to be effective as a team to fulfill the mission of our trip? So that's what we're covering today. And actually, I decided to actually make this part 2 parts. So we're going to focus on the first component of preparing your team, which is defining your purpose. And then next week, we're going to unpack the actual developing your team component. Before we develop the team, there's a lot of questions we have to ask. And there's actually 6 questions that I believe need to be firmly asked and answered before we even have that first, parent and student information meeting that we're going to talk about in the next episode. So here's our 6 questions. Again, not only do they need to be asked, they need to be answered, even before you go public with what you're going to be doing. First question, why are you going? Now you're thinking, Rich, to glorify God. Praise hands, I get the answer, okay? We know that. But specifically, why are you going? You see, for many in what we call mission work or taking mission trips, I don't know if I would actually call them mission trips. I would call them more ministry trips, because their purpose for going has to do more with like tasks. For example, work projects, physical labor. Maybe there's a specific goal with a specific task in mind. We're going to build out this building, and we're going to paint these structures. We're going to help with an orphanage. We're going to lay block for a school. So it's like a work project, or maybe it's a service project. We're going to do some good things for people and come alongside, maybe help this urban community with one of their shelters, and we're going to help like everything from full clothes to help with meals, that kind of stuff. So a lot of times our mission trips, honestly, I would call more ministry trips. Well-meaning and well-intentioned goals and good things. But I'm not sure I'd call it a mission trip, because to me, the mission is fulfilling the Great Commission. And that is verbally declaring the gospel of Jesus. So back to our, why are we going? Is it going to be a work project? Is it going to be a service project? Maybe it's a support project. And here's what I mean by that. I think about Barnabas and even Priscilla and Aquila and even Luke. They came alongside, all of them came alongside the Apostle Paul. And Barnabas actually was also teaching and preaching. But with Priscilla and Aquila and even Luke, they were more in a supportive role. So for example, maybe we come alongside a missionary and their family, and we help provide some support for them during a certain time. I could see that. Okay, so there's different reasons for people taking trips. Maybe one option is to do some training. You actually take a very small or limited group. Let me just role play. Maybe there's some young men that really are feeling called to vocational pastoral ministry, and you want to help them learn what it's like to be a pastor internationally. So you're going to take them, a very small group, overseas and partner with that missionary for, a few weeks or even a month or two. I don't hear about that much. I'm just throwing it out there. The idea there is specific training. You got a lot of high schoolers that are really looking at vocational missions. You take, a bunch of guys and gals that go over and do that for a while. That's very specific of training. Maybe you're doing street evangelism. You got the idea. There's a lot of different things you could do. So I'm going to say this. You have to really narrow it down. Now, for me, I liked the hybrid of task-oriented or service-oriented projects alongside of where we are actually verbally sharing the gospel. So what I'm going to call it is visible presentations of the gospel and verbal presentations of the gospel. I wanted students to learn to roll up their sleeves and do some work, physical work, and serve people, but also share the gospel verbally. So does that make sense? So that's the first question. Why are you going? You have to answer that. Second question, who are you partnering with? I'm huge on this. Who are you partnering with? I really would never recommend you kind of go do a trip on your own and you partner with nobody. I really am a big fan, a big proponent of I'll say the word must, you must partner with a local Christian missionary, ideally a local church. Let's be honest. We come in, we do our thing, we leave. That local church is there before you and is going to be there after you. We simply come alongside and we partner with them. Matter of fact, I would even go even further to say we actually fall under their authority and their leadership. We partner with them. We are now part of that. I mentioned that in my last episode with Pastor Abner in Eastern Washington back in the day. All right. I told our students, I'll say it again this week. I told our Seattle students right now, this week, we are part of Vida Nueva Iglesia, New Life Church. Pastor Abner, I even said this, he's our pastor this week. See, it's not like us coming to them to rescue them. We're here to help serve them. Now, so who are you partnering with? Third question, where are you going? Where are you going? I'm not just thinking latitude and longitude. I'm not just thinking the geographics of a certain city or even nation. I'm even thinking more of a term I used in the classroom. And a lot of this content I'm sharing with you I actually taught in the university setting with our seniors when they would have to learn how to develop a mission trip. So here's what I would tell my seniors this for many, many years. I'd say, guys, I'm not sure about this word. I think I made it up. I never heard it before, but here it is. Geocultural. Geo, think geographic, right? Geo, location, cultural, lifestyle. All right. So I said geocultural. And here's what I mean. I want you to think of Acts 1 and verse 8. Acts 1 and verse 8. When Jesus says, you shall be my witnesses in Jerusalem, concentric circles, right? Judea, Samaria, ends of the earth. Here's what I mean. You may need to think through where you're going geoculturally. Are you going to be staying in your hometown or another town similar to your town? In other words, you ready? Same country, same culture. Same country, same culture, Jerusalem. You may be looking into a Judea, Samaria opportunity, which is what I did on the West Coast. Same country, even same state, different culture, complete different culture. You may be looking at an ends of the earth trip. I would call that very simply different country, different culture, different culture. So you have local, maybe more national, international. So where are you going? Fourth question, who are you trying to reach? Who are you trying to reach? I'm thinking specifically what age group? Are you going to focus more on children's ministry, maybe more youth or student ministry, collegiate ministry, adults? What age group of adults? Is it going to be multi-generational? So be thinking through who are you trying to reach? What age group? Fifth question, what are you planning on doing? And I've already alluded to this a little bit, but let me kind of break this down. We're all going to have our own styles. Maybe yours is more street evangelism. What are you planning on doing? Are you going to be using more, maybe you're going to be using sports. Maybe you'll be using the arts, doing maybe drama, like street drama. Maybe you'll be doing, working in a camp setting. So what are you going to be doing? All right. In my last church, way back in the day, I had about 100 plus students. Okay. And it was 50 plus high schoolers, 50 plus middle schoolers. Of the high schoolers, about half of them would go on this trip. See, so we had about 25. There's your baseline. What we decided to do, because our host pastor asked us to do this, that was the key. He wanted us to have part of our team work with children's ministry and part of our team work with youth. So half the team was actually like our children's min team. The focus there was an afternoon vacation Bible school. Now the youth team helped during that time. However, the children's team ran the show. Then in the evenings on the youth team, we would go to different locations to develop relationships, basketball courts, local pools, etc., where teenagers would hang out in the community. And then we would plan that out, strategize that. And of course, the other half of our team would come alongside and help there. But primarily, the children's team drove the afternoon programs and the youthman team drove the evening programs. That was what we were doing. Now, by the end of the week, we capped each one of those off with an event at the church facility. Think of VBS closing and think of a big youth ministry or event or rally. So during those times, we were trying to help those community people we were meeting throughout the week learn that there is Vida Nueva Iglesia right here on this avenue, and this church is here for you. Remember, we're leaving another day or two from that point, but that church stays on. That was kind of like what we were about, if that makes some sense. So think what you're going to be doing. What are you planning on doing? The last question, when are you going and when is the best time for you to go? When are you going and when is the best time for you to go? And I'm not thinking the best time for you and your ministry. I'm thinking about when is the best time. See it through the lens of your host site. When is that time of the year that is the best, let's say you can best maximize your impact and your influence on them? So for example, because we were going to a migrant community of Hispanic people, I learned from our lead and host pastor over there, Pastor Abner, that there were certain weeks of the summer that the people were so busy working in the fields, we wouldn't even see them. So why would we go during those weeks, right? So we had to learn to calibrate on our end, when is the best time that they're most available for us to get to know them. That's just common sense. Now, next week, we're going to look into more of the specifics on developing your team. But I do want to leave you with this. Think through those 6 key questions. Those have to be answered before you go public. I'm also going to encourage you to develop your leadership team before you go public. I wanted, again, about 25 students that were going. I only needed about 4 or 5 adults. Okay? We did our own meals, so we needed some cooks, etc. I didn't need a handful. I didn't need more than a handful of adults. But those adults were already committed to going. I also want to make sure our student leadership team was already committed and in place before we had our first grand opening, introduction meeting. I'm going to talk more about that next week. What went into that student ministry team, that student leadership team? I'll unpack that next week. Hey, until then, hope you guys have a great week. And remember, what you do matters so much because students matter, because the gospel matters. Take care.